Many years ago, I remember driving home on the 405 freeway in Los Angeles, California, and I was daydreaming about an amazing vacation my wife and I had been on to Greece. And as I was going through stop and go traffic, I just remember having this overwhelming feeling that the work that I was doing used to satisfy me and it used to bring me joy and fulfillment, but I actually started feeling empty. And I started questioning things in my life that I'd never questioned before. I always thought that I had purpose and what I was doing was the right thing. I was at the right place. And it was this moment of feeling empty and confused. And that was the spark of entering this place called the tunnel. And during that phase in my life, I didn't realize how much chaos I was creating in my life and especially in our relationship because I started questioning everything. I started questioning who I was. I started questioning the things I believed. I started questioning the work that I was doing. I even started questioning the things that I liked and the things that I disliked. It got so confusing and so dark this period of time that I even started questioning our relationship. And we had been married for many years at the time, and I knew that I loved her. But there was a point in my life where I just felt like I wasn't fulfilled. I was confused. And I literally felt like I was creating unneeded chaos in my life to the point where it got so dark that I just felt like I wanted to go to an island and live by myself because I was so in this dark place.
And that was definitely one of the toughest times in my life because if you're in a relationship with a wonderful man and all of a sudden he starts questioning things, what do? We start blaming ourselves. We start saying, well, maybe I did something, or maybe I attracted this. Or so I started going into a huge crisis myself, not knowing how to support him. And I just remember praying for guidance. Like, how can I've never seen this before. He shaved his head. He had a new haircut that I've never seen. And everybody was, even his mom was like, why did you shave your hair off? You have such beautiful, gorgeous hair. And so that's where we were at. And what I wanted to share today is also from some of our clients' perspectives, because this is one of the times when people come to us, they want to go to our academy, they want to go to our coaching and our courses because something new has happened in that relationship that has never happened before. So one of our clients, Soul Cry, came into a Facebook Messenger message and she said, "Can you please help me out? My husband's acting so different. I don't know what's happening, and I don't even know if my marriage is safe. I think we're on our way out, and I am having a crisis." So I directed her to some of our trainings and some of our coachings, and she started realizing much of what we teach uh, had really she had not experienced anything like that in her marriage. But as she started applying some of the things that we taught her, things started getting a little bit better. But then it came crashing down again. And she came to me and I said, okay, you have got to get to a Warriors and Queens live event. You've got to come. At the time, we didn't have the academy. So she came with her husband. And I have to tell you, this couple that used to be upbeat and loving and joyful, they were looking at the floor, they weren't touching each other. There was separation. And later on, we found out that they had decided we go to Warriors and Queens, and this is our last event. We either from here are going to fix it or we're going to sign the divorce papers. They were at that point in their life.
And what they learned was the four stages of a man's development. And during that stage of the tunnel, what we're talking about today is the midlife crisis. Most couples go through a midlife crisis. And the crisis isn't the man's crisis, it's usually the crisis he's creating in his relationship that his wife is experiencing because he is going through this phase, if you will. And the four stages of a man's development. The first stage is the page stage. That's when a boy is born all the way till they turned around 13 years old. That's the page stage. They're very curious. They're wanna be knights at this time. They want to test themselves. They're curious about the little things. They love to have a little bit challenges here and there, and they're just very curious at this stage. When they get to puberty around 13 years old, the next phase is the night phase. The night phase is from 13 all the way anywhere between 20 to 25 years old. And this night phase is where boys and men, they actually, I should call them still boys, they want to challenge themselves. They're all about adventure. They want to test themselves, try new things. So they move out of the page phase and they move into the night phase. And each stages that we're sharing with you, there are ways of supporting your man in that stage, or there are also ways of crashing the man. And so the reason we're sharing this is so you can learn how to best support your man depending on what stage that they're in, because depending on what stage that they're in, they may need certain support and they may be showing up a certain way. So this information, like the couple that Yvette was telling you, they gain some power because they learned about the tunnel phase. Now, the tunnel phase comes after the night phase. They move into what we call the prince phase. This is usually between 20, maybe 25, all the way can go up to 45 years old, depending on the man's maturity or immaturity. And in the prince phase, this is where they start to get serious about life. They still want to have adventure, but it's not their highest priority because now their goal is to build their kingdom. They want to build their kingdom with their princess and their family. And so the early stages of a prince is now they're looking, where am I going to plant my flag? What career, what kind of business am I going to get into? As they start moving into the mid prince, now they start to have a little bit more grounding. They may be in a relationship, or they may be the type of prince that wants to wait till they build a strong kingdom before they bring in their princess and their queen. And so as they start to go through the prince phase, eventually they get into the late prince, and now they're getting ready to become a king. In this prince phase, they're also still very moldable. They're not 100% congruent with who they are and where they want to plant their flag and what they believe. So a lot of times their input from their partner is very well taken and very well received, and they can be molded a little bit more versus when they get into the king phase. And so as the prince goes and gets ready to become a king, there is a phase between prince and king, is what we call the tunnel. And the tunnel is kind of like the rite of passage. This is a very sacred time for the man where they literally go from being a boy, if you will, to truly becoming a king and a man that wants to honor and provide and protect their kingdom. The challenge with the tunnel is it almost happens overnight. And most people don't even realize that they went into the tunnel. Their partner, for sure, it's almost like overnight they completely changed. They start doing things that they've never done before. They start saying things that they never said before. They start believing things or questioning things that they've never questioned before. And so when a man goes into the tunnel, it's a very dark place where there can be a lot of confusion. There can be a lot of alone time that they just need to process things. But at the same time, they also start to create chaos in their relationship because they start doing and saying things that they've never done before, such as Yvette said, maybe if you had long hair, they completely cut their hair off and they shave their head. Or if you had a shaved head, you start growing your hair out longer. You start maybe wanting to buy a sports car, a convertible, start doing things that maybe they've never done before because they're questioning everything. But after that tunnel phase, and that tunnel phase could last 6 months, for some, it could last many years. The more their partner tries to force them through the tunnel, the deeper in the tunnel that they go. And this is where we notice a lot of relationships end up breaking up because partners don't know how to support each other when the man goes through the tunnel.
Yes, and I remember when Day was in the Prince phase, and Oh, everything was wonderful because I had a very strong way of wanting to do things. I still have it, but now I know how to dance around it. And I just remember like it was my way many of the times. There was no negotiation. And so he was still, like he said, moldable, right? So I was like, yeah, I'm the queen, but I didn't realize little by little our marriage was just diminishing in light because of the way that I was showing up. Make sure you listen to the podcast on the masks that was right before this one because it'll provide so much healing for you. But I had a very strong mask, a very strong masculine protective mask. And so when I was showing up so strong in the prince face, we were still good. But when he started going to the tunnel, it was like, what happened? Who are you? And so I just remember we were in Brazil. I was in Brazil on a healing journey. I'll leave that story for another one of the podcasts. And I just remember us praying, and we were going to a certification program to learn some of this in relationships. And one of the booklets that Dave had learned and some of the things, and he came in tears in the morning. And I remember his t-shirt was all scratched up with pen because all night long he was reading this information and he was in tears. And he said, I finally understand myself. I am not broken. I was going through the tunnel because even he thought he was going crazy. And that's why we went to this certification. We wanted to really be able to teach it because this is life changing. There are so many marriages that are barely hanging on by a thread where they've stopped showing up for each other because of something that happened in the tunnel. And so luckily, I started to learn about the tunnel. And so I learned how to best support a man or even a woman that might be going through a midlife crisis, but mostly because of the stages of development and the way the brain is wired, men go through the tunnel. And so, how to best support a man in the tunnel. Number one, you cannot show up as being a coach. You cannot show up as trying to pull, I'm going to pull you out of the tunnel, baby. That doesn't work. This is a time where we can just be a friend alongside, be compassionate because it's a very sacred time for a man, be loving. And I know sometimes there's nothing to love because they're so unlovable at that stage. Like he even was saying he was doing everything to upset me. And so I remember when I joined an academy similar to what we offer to teach me because I could not believe that I didn't have it in me to learn how to love him compassionately through one of the toughest times. So I remember I paid a coach to help me through those times so that I can walk alongside with him and be compassion and be love. And I was like, you know what? He's given me so much. The least I can do while he's going through the tunnel is for me to be love despite what he's saying or doing and to just be a source of love. It was probably the hardest thing that I've had to do, and it was also the most fulfilling thing because we had built a kingdom. We had built a legacy. We had built multiple businesses, and I remember saying to myself, and we laugh about it, I was like, take as long as you want, baby, because I for sure I'm not gonna give away our entire kingdom that we built to another woman that comes after the tunnel. So I will sit here and wait and pray. The Power of a Praying Wife book was one of my ultimate reading every single night. And I prayed for this man and I prayed for myself, asking God to illuminate me with more strength so that I could be compassionate no matter what he did. I was committed to being love.
And this is where we actually have a lot of women that come to our warriors and queens believing that their man is broken, that they've completely changed, and that the relationship is broken because he's gone into the tunnel and she doesn't know what to do. And there are things that men do that could make the tunnel experience very chaotic, but also understand there's things that we can do to make that tunnel experience super sacred because basically what a man is doing is they're evolving into a king. They're shedding off the past so they can step into their future and be the king that their princess and their queen needs him to be. Things that men want to avoid. Um, you'll notice sometimes men, they may go into drinking more, which can create a lot more chaos. They may, if they start hanging out with the wrong friends that want to encourage them to do things that are not supportive of their relationship. A lot of times, men, they start doing things that create more chaos in their relationship. So, what are some things that men and couples can do, as Yvette said, to support each other? Well, one thing that's super, super powerful is for the man in the tunnel to surround himself around other warrior men that will hold him to a higher standard, that will be there as a listening ear and also encourage him to step into his greatness. Another thing a man can do is to go out in nature. Sometimes they just need to be alone with their own thoughts, to go out in nature, to pray to God, to illuminate his true purpose, to remind him who he is. We also like to encourage people with soul whispers. And in soul whispers is reminding Dave, we know who you really are.
Hmm.
Who is God intending you to be right now? What's the purpose in your life? And as you say these little soul whispers, you start speaking to the king inside of the man that's going through the tunnel. Also, doing personal development, reading great books, listening to great audios, listening to podcasts like this, going to live events where you immerse yourself and you start to grow together as a couple. The thing that you want to avoid is to try, as Yvette said, try and coach or try and force your man through the tunnel, judging. What they really need is appreciation. They need compassion. And the more appreciation and compassion you give your man, the faster he'll start to move through the tunnel. And instead of giving all of that you've worked so hard together for years and years of building that kingdom, instead of breaking it up and having that kingdom for somebody else, you start to realize how you can actually take that tunnel experience and create an even stronger bond in your relationship.
So we believe in happy endings, and this wonderful couple that came in so broken, they I have to report they have a beautiful relationship. They stepped into mastery, they joined our academy, and now their life is about helping other couples that are going through difficulties. As a matter of fact, they come and volunteer at our events. They went through our advanced program and they have helped so many other people that don't have this information be able to claim their superstar relationship status.
And we are absolute proof that no matter what stage you are in your relationship, that you can not just survive it, but you can thrive through your relationship. As a matter of fact, me going through the tunnel is one of the reasons why, and it sparked our Warriors and Queens movement for us to take it to a whole nother level. And I just remember there was a moment in time where when I was going through the tunnel, I was doing everything possible for her to break up with me. I mean, I was doing everything that you could imagine because I didn't have the courage to break up with her because I loved her, but I didn't feel like I deserved her. And I because I was questioning everything. And I would just remember there was a moment in time where, as a man, I know, and a former police officer, I know how to fight and I know how to argue. But when we were going through our stages in the tunnel, I remember there was a moment in time where I just realized that no matter what I did, she was consistently going to show up with unconditional love. And when she showed up with that unconditional love, there was no argument, there was no fight. And I had to look around, there was no wall behind me. And it completely opened up my heart. And I realized that this woman, when we made our vows under God, we made a covenant relationship that no matter what, we were going to be there for each other. And because of her unconditional love, it pushed me through the tunnel. and I stepped into the king phase. And in the king phase, this is where men now they want to be back home and they want to provide, they want to protect, they want to cherish and love on their queen and their family, and they know who they are. There's no more questioning who they are. There's no more questioning what their purpose is, which also means there's a whole nother way women and men need to support each other in the king phase, because we're no longer as moldable before. Now she knows that she can't say something 2 or 3 times and me are going to change my decision, because I know who I am and I know what I want. And in that king phase, it also gives her a tremendous amount of certainty that there's no more questioning going on. So a few things. Your man might be in the tunnel if he wants to buy a red convertible Corvette. Your man might be in the tunnel if he wants to go and join a new band. Right? Your man might be in the tunnel if he is an employee and wants to start a new business, or vice versa. Your man might be in a tunnel if he has been in business and now he wants to go and get a job. Your man might be in a tunnel if he completely changes his hair or the way he dresses. Either way, just know that wherever you are in your relationship, that there is hope and you can turn it around by learning the Warriors and Queens way.
So we would like to thank you. Today has been so wonderful. If you got some value out of today, will you please subscribe? But even more important, give us a review. That is how we are able to get the work out, to touch more people that might be suffering, that might be having needless pain. So subscribe. And then we also have a free e-course that we would like to gift you for being one of our listeners. Go to warriorsandqueens.com/3 steps, the number 3 and the word steps, STEPS. Download the e-course and then come back and let us know what you liked about it, what you learned, and how it's impacting your life. Thank you so much.
We are Dave and Yvette Ulloa, empowering dream relationships one person at a time. Thanks so much for joining Yvette and I. Our goal is to give you tools, mindset, and motivation to strengthen your most important relationship and experience vibrant intimacy.
Please take a moment to rate and review us. We would love to gift you our e-course at warriorsandqueens.com/3 steps.